on the inside of the small flap. So we're going to have the cream, and then we'll have the princess strip, and then we're going to have the crown. So it'll layer just like so. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get my tape off and get ready to glue down the crowns. Going to burnish that real quick. It didn't look like it was laying down very well. Okay. Turn it sideways. And I'm looking for just even a straight line across the bottom here, and then even borders. There we go. We'll do the same thing on the cream. And this is the Patterns and Solids, that's that cream. But like I said, I'd used cardstock on those large tags, and it's very close to this color. Not something I usually do, but in a pinch. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I've got the paper going the right way. Yeah, I do. Okay. Let's shift that so I don't see it. There we go. Looking to carry my border straight across from the centerpiece. And now my little princess, I gotta go make sure that I've got the right orientation. Yes, goes right here. So we're gonna do the same thing on page 5. That is the end of the small flap. So that is the whole kit and caboodle. So we've got this large tag that slips in, the ephemera card, and then we've got 3 pieces here. This is a nice deep pocket, another flap, and then another 3-piece, and then these flaps. So that's all of page 4. So now we have this last section here for page 5, and we will be done with page 4 and 5. Dry fit goes this way. So I have the crowns. I'm going to open that and make sure you got crowns on the bottom, cream on the top. So as usual, in this album, I'm working with what I always use, which is a 1/16 of an inch border. So basically, every mat is 1/8 smaller than the black cardstock measurement, less any hinge that 1/4 inch hinge that you might have added. So that's what my mats are. Some people like a larger mat, but I like a really tight, especially if the collection I'm working with is make sure I've got that going. Yeah, light colored like this is. Contrast page. And for the most part, I try to do that same matte border for everything, whether it's a tag or on a page. I try to keep it very consistent. It's my kind of design aesthetic. Everybody's kind of got their own little thing, and that's fine. I'm really fussy about right angles and managing my margins. And that's one of the reasons you won't see me use a lot of decorative corner punches. It's because you can't really offset it exactly. That drives me nuts unless you have two different punches, one inside the other. If you use one punch and cut both the mat and the core cardstock, it doesn't inset just right. So that kind of bugs me. I know that's silly, but that's my thing. That's my hang up. That's probably a niche market. Somebody should do a better job of making those inset corner chompers where you have a little bit more of a choice, because the one that's very popular is too big of a border for me. Okay, now I have a little piece already trimmed. What did I do with it? All right, it's here somewhere. Hang tight. Here it is. Princess. So easy to lose things, even just turning them over, they look so different. All right. I'm just verifying that's the top, that's the bottom, so I've got everything going the right direction. Get my little strip down and we're done with 4 and 5. I know you thought it would never end. Okay, the princess is going in the right direction. And it's not dry yet, and it's too large, so I'm going to trim a smidge off. I'm going to put tape on my scissors. I just used my scissors because there was glue on it and I didn't want to stick it on my cutting board again, because that glue really wants to grab to that tool, and it was kind of hard to clean it off last time. Okay, yay! Look at that. There is a lot going on between these two pages. Okay, looky. This is my favorite layout right here. These colors are just so rich. Okay, now we are on to page 6. And this is not page 6, this is page 8. I put page 6 in the pocket inside of page 6. Just help me keep it organized. Okay. And then I put page 7 stuff all inside of page 7 so I wouldn't have to go looking for it. All right, so now we're getting to the, you know, since we were past the center, like I said, there's 4 unique page designs and then they get repeated. So obviously we mirrored 4 and 5, and now we're going to start repeating 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so these will be familiar to you. This is going to go here. All right. Does that look right? Yes, it does. I'll go ahead and take these pieces out so they're not distracting us. Or me, not distracting me. There's a lot going on with page 7. Okay, that was a lot of paper. Okay, here we go. So this is a flap. There's a top flap, what I'm calling the extended flap, rolls up. We're going to line the inside of this. This is a simple pocket, and that's it. This side's not terribly complicated because page 4 and 5 were very complicated and have a lot of weight to them. I didn't want to put too much on this page. And so the mirror to this is on the other side of page 4. This is 6 and then 4. So 4 and 6 are the same. And I think I pointed it out when I did page 4, but I'll say it again. This piece right here, these dancing ladies, comes from the 8x8 pack, and I chose that because the scale works better for this size flap. Even though the same pattern is in the 12x12, I think the scale on the 8x8 works better for this flap. You need a contrast sheet. Can't really see the edge of this. There it is. In. Okay. And this is just on with my little glue dots. I just wanted to set it aside so I wouldn't lose that piece of ephemera because I really like the way it looked there. I'll dry fit this real quick. Make sure I don't need to trim anything, and rotate it. But it looks good to me at glance. At a glance. Looks great. Okay, I'll get my tape off, glue on, rocking and rolling. Side, have to push that down so much. Shake it out. Too high. Again, too high. Trying to get this in, and then I want my margins nice and tight, and I want to stay out of this little hinge because this flap is going to come up. So that's what I'm fussing with right now. Okay. Rotate again. And as a reminder, we're on page 6. So that is the outside top flap and extended flap. And then this is a little piece of ephemera that I'm going to come back to when we do all our extras. Okay, so let's see. This is for the extended flap inside, so this is going to go right here. This is solid, so I don't have to worry about direction. I'm rotating it so I can see my 3 sides. Yikes. My book is really getting thick. It's not over far enough. I think this might actually need to be trimmed. Let's try this one more time. It's pretty tight. Yeah, it's too big. So I'm gonna let this dry for a second because I'm gonna come back and trim just a sliver off because it's a little bit too wide. And while I have it off, I'm checking. Let's see how the pocket fits. It might need to be a trim too. No, it looks okay. So while this is drying, I'll come back to that in just a second. While that's drying, I will work on the pocket. Okay. Pocket. You know what? It is too tight as well. So let's shade. A sliver, and this is what I mean when I say a sliver, just a tiny bit. But then I can make my margins even, and it's worth it to me, I think. Unfortunately, when you do that, after you've taped it, your blades don't like it very much, but that's all right. Kind of gunks them up a little bit. If I'm just working on my own and that happens, usually I just use a straight edge and an X-Acto knife instead of my trimmer because it does gunk up your blade. And X-Acto knives are a lot easier to clean. Not that they're not any cheaper, but they're easier to clean. But in this light, I don't think I would try to do anything with a straight edge. Okay, let's get this off. I don't really need that note anymore. If I recall, is this going to fit exactly, or do I have it trims? No, it fits. Okay. Still not happy with. Perfect. I didn't have enough contrast. is in. Very good, very good. This is page 6, top flap inside. I think this was originally planned for in here, but I changed my mind, I think. Maybe not. We'll see. I think this goes here. This is a little trim here, just above the pocket. And then, yep, that's it. Okay. So I'll set these aside for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and come back to this. I trimmed it. I let it dry, so I'm going to trim it a smidge. I'm laying it down on the side that didn't have any adhesive and taking a look at it. It looks like probably a 1/16 of an inch. Okay. I cringe because I'm totally gunking up my blade, but what do you do? Okay, that's better. Much better. Round 2. It's okay.
Recording?
Yep, that's my husband in the background. He snuck in on me. Let's see. Okay, good. That's in now. A little bit of fussing, but I think it was worth the trouble. And clean that up a little bit. Got a little bit of glue coming out here. All right, so I think I've got a strip. So I'm going to have 2 strips, one above the pocket and then one also on this little flip piece. And so I've got I can either add just another little red piece here or a contrast, and it kind of going back and forth. I kind of like this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lay down this piece first and then make a judgment call on which one I really want above the pocket. Because I'm sure I had a plan, but I forget. If I don't lay it down right away, I forget. So this piece was not big enough to cover the whole space. So I'm going to push it as close to the top of the flap as possible. And then that'll leave me, I think that's what I'm going to, yeah. And that'll leave me just a little space to add a decorative trim. So I'm going to shift this, get the tape off, get some glue on it, and then lay that down. I was kind of surprised my husband walked in. He doesn't come in here very often. It's kind of my little sanctuary. Not that he's not welcome. But there's no TV in here, so why would he come in? All right. I think he's ready for me to come sit down with him and watch a movie, so not sure how much more I'll do tonight. Okay, so again, I'm looking to put this as close to the hinge as possible, and that'll leave me a nice little space at the bottom to add a decorative, like, border piece. My glasses shifted on me. Is this gonna fit? That's a little tighter than I want it to. Wow, why am I not seeing this when I'm dry fitting? Oh, it's okay. In line with my strip here because it's attractive. a nice border. All the way down. Okay. Okay, now I've got this little space here. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and no, I wonder why I didn't choose that side. Oh, Daphne, Daphne. Do I like that? Or do we like this? And of course, just to make it difficult, I like both, so I'm not sure. Probably put the contrast up here. It'll just make it stand out a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to add this one right here. And that was entirely too much glue. And I want the yellow to separate the two. So the yellow is going to be toward the bottom. Oops. Okay, that's going to flip up. And now I have this piece. It's going to go in here. A little bit wider than the space, so I'm gonna see if I can get each of the corner, slightly get the corner inside the pocket for two reasons. One, so I'll have even margins, but also when you have a piece of paper that goes right inside the pocket like this, getting your cards to come in and out, slide in and out freely of the pocket, it really makes a big difference. Shifted too much. There we go. That's actually a little bit too big. So, as usual, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to trim that off real quick. Because I can't do that. Can't live with it. So I'm going to trim that tiny, tiny, tiny bit. Maybe. Possibly had too much coffee. Oh, there it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is how it's done. So now I just need to put a dot of glue, and we are in, and you can see it's now flush with the piece above it. Okay, and it's out also slightly inside the pocket. So whatever I put in and out of the pocket will move freely. Sometimes, because we've got these two flanges on the pocket, sometimes when you go to put something in, it'll actually get hung up on the flange. But if you slip your decorator paper just slightly behind it, it prevents that from happening. Okay, another decision. Do I want the princess print up or the cream? And I definitely want the princess up. So here's the challenge with that. I've got some tape on this side, so I've got to see if I can roll it off without damaging the paper. And so far, I was going to say so far so good, but I just tore the end. That kind of stinks. But you know what? I don't care. I like it better, so that's what I'm going to do. I need to trim a sliver off, and then I think I can cover that up with, I am the queen of cover-ups. Cover that up with filigree. Is it exactly the same size as the pink one? Yes, it is. Okay, so there we go. So even though I tore the teeny tiny corner because I got in a hurry, I shouldn't have done that. I should have kept rolling. But I'm going to cover that up with a piece of filigree when it comes time to do embellishments. So I'm not going to stress about that at all. I know how to cover things. I know how to cover tracks. I actually stress a lot less about that than margins. You can always put a sticker on something, but you can't really hide uneven margins. Okay. So I'm really liking this silly little pop that I put on top of this tool for two reasons. One, it makes it easier to see visually. I'm not losing it as often, but it's also easier to move it around. So there is your 99-cent tool tip. I didn't even pay 99 cents for the pop. It's some freebie I got somewhere. Okay. Then I think, if memory serves me, this is the end of page 6. Is that right? It went so quickly compared to page 4 and 5. Okay, I'm going to flip it upside down so I can see my 3 edges. I know that this is the top, and this is the bottom, because I just rotated it upside down, so I want to make sure my letters are oriented right. And they are. How am I doing? Good. I'm doing good. I'm in. That's done. Okay. So turn it right side up. Make sure I've got every surface covered. Okay, this is it. When it's completely closed, then you open, then you flip. Yep, we're done. So page 6 is done. Page 7 is a monster. There is a lot of paper for page 7. So what I want to do is I think I want to start with the largest surface, which is this piece right here. It's going to go right here. And I can see it is not exactly trimmed right. I tell ya. So I'm going to dry fitting it. And I can tell it doesn't fit because I can't even close the page. So I'm going to have to trim that down a little bit. I'm going to try it. Still too big. One more time. So it looks like I took off a total of 1/8 of an inch or so. Can I? It's still too tight. Wow, it was really too big. So probably more like 1/4 inch is what's actually coming off total. This is a weird pattern. It's not square. It's visually driving me nuts. They kind of printed it cockeyed, and that makes me feel like I'm not cutting straight. Okay. 20th time's the charm. And then you can see down here it's a little bit larger than the strip, so I'm just going to make a little mark and cut that off. It's not much, but enough to throw it off visually. Okay, I'm trimmed and ready. And now I have to, and I'm futzing around, here it is, because I need to re-ink my edges since I just trimmed it. So I trim, okay, I trim these two sides. Okay, we're on page 7, and page 7 is the mirror of page 2. So as you're working along, if you are doing the tutorial and you're not completely sure what I'm doing, you can go back and look at page 2 in your album, and it's the same thing, only it's a mirror of it. So like I had said at the beginning of the videos, I like any flaps that I have, for the most part, I try to have close away from the spine, with the exception of these huge flaps, right? So that's why for page 7, this is on the right-hand side. For page 2, it's on the left-hand side. Is one big piece of paper, so there is tons of room for photos here. And because this closes entirely, I mean, you can do whatever you want in terms of a collage and not have to worry about any weird pieces peeking out. Okay, like I said, this is a monster page. Gotta see, page 7, large right flap inside. Large right flap inside, so that does not make sense unless maybe it goes, sorry, I gotta rethink. Page 7, base mat. So this was really the base mat. I think what I meant was the pocket page mat. So I'm gonna slip this in here. Yeah, that's what I meant. And what goes up here? These are the pieces that are going to go left and right. So let's get these down, because I know where they go. Uh-oh. I'm having that moment again where which one do I want? Do I want the stripe or do I want the flowers? I hate that. Page 7, top flap inside. This is the top flap, but this is the outside, top flap outside. That's what I need. Right flap. Oh, I'm going to have to come back to this. I'm too mixed up. Let me get my papers lined up and then I'll come back. Hey everyone, it's Daphne, and I'm back to finish up the rest of page 7 and page 8, and then we'll be done with all the internal pages for this 8.5 by 10.5 mini album. So as you recall, yesterday we made some good progress on page 7. We've got the top flap, left and right flap covered, the top down flap covered, and what's left is the inside of this, and then also the large flap. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And so while I was away, I trimmed down and added tape to the pages that are going to go here on top. And I decided to arrange it like this. Now, as I told you, I'm running really tight on paper, and so I didn't have quite enough of this to go all the way down. So I'm just going to add a little strip here right into the pocket, so you can see the sort of the lattice, the hearts, the lattice, and then this yellow here. So I think that looks nice. I would have preferred to have a big enough piece, but you know, you do what you can with the paper you have. All right, I'm going to get the tape off and then get these pieces laid down. I'm going to start with the heart piece. And then my goal is to put, my intent is to put the heart piece as close to the score line here on the flap. And then this little gap will be covered by this strip here. Okay. So as you recall, my last video, I was making do because I couldn't find my pick, and I found it last night when I was straightening up my room. And that really saves me a lot of time. Back. It's a gorgeous day here in San Diego. I bet it's probably 78 degrees outside. Nice and warm, which makes my little room here quite toasty. I haven't used my glue today, so it's taking a few minutes to work it down. Interestingly enough, yesterday when I was recording, I had 2 visitors, which is very rare. Both my son and my husband came in to see me. And then last night, while I was trying to finish up, the 2 of them snuck off. And when I left my room, I found a little sticky note on my door. It said they went off to get me some ice cream. So I was pretty happy about that. So when I was finished, I got a reward. I got some ice cream. I'm going to use my contrast paper here, right behind this flap here, and I'm actually going to raise it. All my natural light is coming in this way, so I'm just going to use something to lift this just a little bit because I'm casting a slight shadow. There we go. Beautiful. And like I said, I'm going as close to the hinge as possible. I'm just looking for nice, tight, even borders as usual. Sorry about the pause. My brain's hasn't quite kicked in. I've only had 1 cup of coffee so far. Oops, my glue is over here dripping a little bit. So while I've been sick and piddling around with this album forever, Christine got her 8x8 out, which you guys are all enjoying right now. And then last night, that little stinker, she beat me to the punch again, and she got a 5x7 out of the Princess Collection. So she's like a machine. She cranks these out so fast. So later on today, I will be reviewing that video, and assuming all is well, which I anticipate to be the case, you will have yet another piece of inspiration out there on the Princess Collection. And it'll be from Christine, and it'll be 5x7. And she's went ahead and put that together with scraps that she had left over from the 8x8 project she just finished. Okay, I'm going to use my tool to kind of evenly space that, and also to pick up some excess glue here. But you can see there's all kinds of ways to make your paper stretch if you need to. It does take a little bit of extra time because there's more trimming involved, but it looks beautiful when you're finished. People think it's deliberate. So this will have a nice deep pocket, and then this is the piece that's going to go on top. Move this aside, get my tape off, get this down. Yay, we're almost done. So if you recall, page 8 is going to be just like page 1. So it's going to have that pop flip mechanism. So as soon as I'm done with page 7, we'll construct the pop flip mechanism, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on page 1, where I'm going to lay down as many of the internal mats before I construct it as possible, because I just think it's easier to work with. And I think I can do 2 or 4 out of the 8 before I actually construct it and put it into the book. And you'll see what I mean when I'm going over it. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and flip my book around. There we go. And then this should be just perfect. Or is it? Make sure before I completely lay it down that it might need to be trimmed just a tad. No, it is right on. Perfect. Okay. And that is in. Okay, flip it right side up again. Okay, so we just finished the inside of the large flap, the down flap on page 7. So again, we've got the left flap, the right flap. These are held together with a magnet. I had originally thought I was going to use this pocket to stow stuff in to keep it from moving around too much. And I'm not sure I'm going to do that. So I went ahead and added the magnets. You can't do it after you get your paper down. So I went ahead and added it. I still have the option to do that. But either way, these flaps will be held in place. This does not have a magnet. So I'm going to have to do something to hold the large flap in place, but I don't have to worry about the side flaps. Okay, now we're on the inside. And I've got 3 pieces that are going to go down here. So I'm turning it sideways, and it's going to look like this. Okay, and I have everything taped and inked, so it shouldn't take very long to get it down. Let me get my contrast paper under here. I'm going to start with the bottom piece. And this is a mirror of page 2. And page 2, I did the same design, even the same print, but different colors. So I did pink in the front, and I'm doing yellow in the back. Okay. So I'm just looking for my even margins here on 2 of these sides. And I'm looking to come straight across from the paper right above it, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to take my sticky note off. Okay, and because I have 3 pieces, I'm going to do the bottom, and I'm just double checking to make sure I put that in right. Yes, I did. That's the bottom. Yes, the bottom, and then the top, and then I'll do the middle piece because I'm going to center that between these 2. Okay, just doing a quick dry fit. Yep. Make sure I don't need to trim anything off. I'm going to shift my contrast paper over a little bit. There we go. And hopefully it won't be much longer before I get the video out. I started for the base album, the pockets, flaps, and all the mechanisms. I got all the editing done last night. So that should be coming out soon. And then there'll be 2 videos layering in the designer pages. I'm really taking a long time to get this done. Part of that's because I did some taping while I was recording, which I think takes too much time, so I won't do that again. So I'm gonna, when I go through and edit that video, I think I'm gonna try to fast forward through some of those pieces to shorten the length of this video, because it is quite long. And this is, it is a pretty big book. It has a lot. I'm gonna shift that over just a little bit because I didn't like the way it was lining up here. That's better. Okay, last piece. So this is going to go nice and centered right here. And like I said, I just love this gold with this little heart crown piece. I think these 3 patterns go together so well. Okay, and this concludes page 7. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Okay, that, like I said, concludes page 7. Just moving some of my tools out of the way. Press that down one more time and close it. Now we are on to page 8. And I was, last night, was having the time trying to keep all my papers squared. So when after I finished recording, I stopped and took my pages and actually clipped them inside to help speed things up today, because I was shuffling so many papers. It was kind of obnoxious. Anyways, so this is the large mat that's going to go on the bottom. Then we've got our left-right flaps, and I'm looking to see how this fits, and it's pretty tight. I might have to trim just a sliver off the bottom. Possibly. Okay, I'm going to come back and do this piece last. So I'll do these 3 pieces first, and then I'll close it. And look at there. Looky there. No tape. How did that happen? At least it's only one of them. No tape, and I can tell I didn't ink the edges on this one. And I'm just using 1/4 inch score tape. It's really kind of a personal preference. You can use wider or thinner tape, but there's really no need to go wider. And these albums take so much adhesive. I go ahead and use the thinner one on my mats and the thicker on my hinges. Oops, I jumped the gun a little bit because I didn't get my ink on. So I'll do that real quick and then we'll get our glue on. And I think I mentioned it yesterday, but I'll mention it again. The ink I use is something that Julie told me about. It's called Powder Puff, and it goes on very much like a chalk, and I like it because when you drop the pad, even if you drop it on your carpet, it doesn't seem to... It doesn't grab onto every fiber like those alcohol inks do. And I always wound up with so much ink on myself that I would wind up damaging some of my paper. So I really like this. And I wish we carried it in our shop, but we don't. We wind up picking it up at expos. At some point we might. Comes in lots of different colors. For people that really like to ink, and you can stamp with it. But I always just use a brown on the edges. I don't like to color ink. That's just one more design decision. I know that's terrible, isn't it? All right, you know what? I'll do that afterwards. I can see I've got a little pencil mark on my paper, but I'll take it off after I lay it down. Make sure I'm out of my... No, I need to scoot over a little bit. Too close to my score line on the other side. And remember, you want to steer clear of your score line so that your flaps will open and close freely. And just remove in my contrast paper. That is in. Okay, now we're going to do the left and right flaps. And here I did get my tape in. The other thing I noticed when I was looking at my videos last night for editing is my volume is all over the place. And honestly, I don't know if it's me or the phone. But I'll do what I can to to fix it in the videos through the editing software. But I honestly, I'm afraid it might be me, because with this cold pneumonia, my head's all plugged up and I can't hear myself right. So I sound like I'm talking really loud to myself. Okay, I added magnets to this. I did not do that in the initial construction of the album. I added it later, and I think I pointed that out in my last video, but just FYI, I did that on page 1 and 2. And the other thing I noticed when I was going through my editing software, for whatever reason, I did not have my camera on for page 1. So page 1 is adding these flaps, these left and right flaps. And then that's it. It's not doing the pop flip mechanism until later. But I actually didn't show the installation of these flaps. I skipped right over to page 2, so I must have forgot to hit my record button. But it's pretty straightforward, and I might wind up doing something to add that, but I'm not sure what. Or pull a piece, copy and pull forward what I did on page 8. But it's really straightforward. It's two flaps left and right. They're against the spine and the edge of the pocket page, and they are running flush with the top of the page. So there's no real magic in terms of measuring where to put them. No centering or anything like that, so it's pretty straightforward. Contrast under here, and this yellow against the black, it's so easy to see for me, and of course my light's a lot better today too. Oops, is that okay? Yeah, it is. Because the book is so thick, it's kind of sloping on me a little bit. So all right, that's done. Now we're going to do the two top sides or A sides of these flaps. And we've got, for the top, it's going to be pieced together. I've got these little strips that go on either end. So I'm going to start with that. And I'm going to double check and make sure I have not. Okay, good. My magnet will be covered. Whenever you do piecing, it's always good to, before you start gluing anything down, lay everything out and make sure that you won't have any exposed magnets. Never a problem with a solid piece, but if you start piecing, then you got to remember you've got more gaps to deal with, so you have a good opportunity to expose a magnet. Okay, I was just double checking I inked these. And these are kind of small, so I'm just going to go ahead and use glue and skip the tape. Save some time. Yesterday when I was cleaning up, there was little glue tags everywhere. I had to do quite a bit of cleanup. I get it on my hand and then it peels off and it just looks like dead skin laying everywhere. Beautiful. Okay, now this is going to go right here. I'm nudging this just a little bit more. Okay. Okay, once I have these flaps done, then we'll go work on the pop flip mechanism, and like I said, we're going to mat the inside of that mechanism as much as I can before I construct it. It just makes it easier. Yeah, it's pretty tight. Oh well, it's not perfect, but it's okay. It's off a little bit, but I am going to have a piece of ephemera here, so that won't be so obvious later, I hope. Okay. And then this little strip is a coordinating strip on the reverse side, and it's actually on this flap. Oops, you know what I just realized? I did that wrong. Gosh darn it. I wanted these on the top, but I'm going to close it that way anyways. But normally I would want my flap to close away from the spine, and I just realized I did that backwards. It's fine. I'm going to close it this way anyway. But from a usage perspective and wear and tear on your album, it's always best to have your flaps moving away from the spine if you can. And don't forget, like I just did. Okay, and this is the last piece. It's going to go right here. I'm double checking. It looks like it needs to be trimmed out tiny bit. There we go. Nice even margins. Just using my fingernail to get some of the glue out of the crease there. That looks good. Okay. So like I said, normally I would have it closed this way, and you still can, but I kind of like the split, because I'm going to, like I said, I think I'm going to put like a piece of ephemera or something, trim that down and put that there, kind of the same way I did that. Of course, I might use horizontal instead of vertical, just like this. So that is done. So now for the bottom half, that's the pop flip mechanism. This is going to be the base. And I'm going to go back and see how tight I made that. There's a gap. Okay. So I'm going to open this up. So I need a nice, looks like I need to trim just a tad off. Okay, there we go. That's nice even margins. I'm going to ink the edge I just trimmed. And I'm going to go ahead and put this down just to get it out of the way. And then we'll set the whole book aside and do the pop flip piece. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to put something to raise the side of the book over here because it's kind of sloping away from me. There we go. And I'll put my contrast piece in on the bottom. Okay, there we go. That is pretty much the base of page 8. Now we're going to set it aside, and we're going to work on the pop flip mechanism, which is right here. Clear my space. So, as you recall, we have these little flanges to deal with, and they kind of float around on you. And I figured out using this temporary glue dot really made a big difference in terms of trying to get these in and get them in straight. So I'm going to do the same thing today. I am going to place a glue dot on each one of these, and like I said, it's temporary, so once we're finished, we'll just open it up and they'll pop right off. Did I want to do that before I put the mats in? Now I'm not sure. Okay, so it goes like this. They're going to face each other. There's one that becomes the base, and then there's one that becomes the top of it, which is this. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the mat to the top while it's uninstalled, just because it's easier to deal with. It looks like I've trimmed that just right. My tape and glue. And get it on. I'm just shifting my workspace a little bit so I can see all the way around. Just a little extra glue there. I'm taking off. Okay, so this will be the top piece of the pop flip mechanism. So these two will be underneath this. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to rethink whether or not I want those. You know what? I decided I was going to actually mat these before I installed them, so I'm going to need to take my glue dots off. I'll do that, and then I'll reapply the glue dots. And once you take them off, you can't really use them again because they kind of roll up. But that's all right. Let me get my mats in, and then we'll do that again. Okay, now let's face each other. I've got to get my mats in the right sequence. So I know I want to start with a princess, and then I think I'm doing a dark princess and a dark, and then a polka dot, and then a princess. Is that what I want? So I'm just trying to, when I open it, it'll look like this. 1, 2, 3, and then this will be on the top piece. So I think I do like that sequence. So these two pieces will go in when I apply the pop pieces to the base and the top. These will go in, but right now I can put these two in. So I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm just double checking to make sure I inked. So this will go on this side. And if you're worried about mixing them up, I mean, install the whole thing first, and then you'll know which pieces are facing each other. Okay, so like I said, this will get installed like that. And then this will be attached to the top flap. And so I'll put the polka dots on here. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, just mirror image. I'm a little heavy-handed on my glue today. Can really tell what the weather's like with your glue because it flows. The flow changes depending on the temperature. Okay, so now that's going to be exactly a copy on the other side. The nice thing about these two pieces, the internal pieces, is they are not directional. So you really can't mess up. Even if you change the sequence, it won't matter. And like I said, they're not directional, so you don't have to worry about up or down. Okay, that's in, and then the solid. And then, now that I have my mats in, I could put those glue dots down again and actually attach it to the base and the cover. And then once that is accomplished, we will add some magnets. Okay. A little bit of glue there. Okay. So it's going to go like this. And these two hinges are kind of going away from each other. The fold is toward the outside, which is very counterintuitive in my mind. But that is the way it works. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the glue dots. That's not a glue dot. Here they are. And get these hinges to lay down out of our way until we're ready. And that's all I'm using is glue dots. It's a removable adhesive. It looks like it might be about like a 1/2 inch dot, and I'll hold it up to the camera so you can see it. That's it. And they are wonderful for temporarily holding things together. I use them a lot in the design process. When I've got paper trimmed in everywhere but not stuck down to the book, I'll use those to hold it temporarily in place. Either that or paper clips or both. So I think it's a very handy design tool. And right now I'm just getting some excess glue off my hands. Okay, we're ready to lay these down. So I'm going to dry fit these first. Remember, we want the dark red closest to the princess on the face down. And none of these are perfect, so what I did was I went and I want to pick the image that has the best centered princess for the downside, and then the upside will be the one that's not quite as centered, because you can't center them all or you just waste too much paper. Okay, I'm just making sure everything fits nicely, and it does. And I'm definitely going to use glue so that I can shift this until I get it where I want it. And I'm also going to flip this over so that I don't have any markings on the back of this, so that when it opens up you don't see my little measurements. That side will be glued to the book. All right. And I'm just using gravity and my workspace to get it flush on the bottom. Oops, it wasn't down yet. And I'm fussing around a lot, which is not that, I don't know that you need to. This is the piece that's not going to show. Okay, so I'm pushing my tape down. Okay, and I just opened it up slowly because I didn't want to pull it back up because I did have that little glue dot there. Okay, I'm taking a look at what I did, and everything's pretty flush. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Get some glue on here. And it is going to go down just like this, and I'm going to square it off this side. So what I'm doing right now is just nudging it a little bit into place to make sure that these two, when they move, do not interfere with each other, and they don't. And now I'm going to press, gently open that, remove my glue dot, press that down. Okay, now that is done. So now the next piece is going to be this. Okay. So we are going to remove the tape on both sides, add some glue, and then we're going to press that top down. And we will give ourselves a little bit of time by adding that glue, not a whole lot, but a little bit, to wiggle it square. And we are almost there. Then this whole thing goes inside the book. Okay. That's that. So I've gotten a lot better at putting these together from the first time I tried to instruct on it. I think I've gotten a lot better and a lot clearer in my instructions. Okay, I'm opening it, removing my glue dots, which actually got underneath that mat a little bit. And I'm going to flip it and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going slowly because I don't want my hinge to come off. And it didn't. Okay, so looks like I got a little tab here, so I'm going to add a dot of glue. There we go. All good. So that is the cover. Okay, so now while I still have it out, I'm going to go ahead and add these two mats. And like I said, I want the image of the princess that's best centered to be here, because when you open it, you're going to see that before you see this. So I'm going to, I think, do that. So I've got two choices here for the other side. This whole thing, like I said, I got it from a card maker. Also makes a great card, like a 4x6 card. And you can have something different on each one of these, or you can have a saying and a photo. It's a great way to email photos, or to mail photos, especially like small photos, like school photos. I have a lot of family in Texas, so when Sam was in grade school, I was always looking for creative ways to send the photos in kind of a finished format, not just loose photos in a card. small mats go so fast. They're so easy to center when you're not working on such a large format. Make sure I've got this. I want both my princesses to be going the right direction. And then when I flip it to do the other side, same thing, I need to make sure I don't turn this over and then have princesses upside down on one side and right side up on the other. That's the only thing to really worry about. So when it's closed, there's the top. So there's the top, which means these gals got to go in this way. And I think I like that just like that. So this will wrap up page 8. In my next video, I will be doing the inside covers, the outside cover, and embellishments. And like I said, I ran out of paper from the bundle, so I'm breaking into my a new 8x8 or 12x12 8-sheet pack, and I'll be using that pack to do the inside cover, back cover, outside cover, spine, and whatever's left, which probably won't be a lot, is going to be contributed to my 8x10 inserts, because remember, these are pocket pages, so I still have inserts to cover. And then I'm going to count and see how many photo opportunities do you have, but I bet a lot. This is a big book. Okay, so there we go. Actually, that's the bottom. That's the top. How do I know? Because the top has pink on it, the bottom is black. Okay, but honestly, you can, it works, they're exactly the same until you cover it. Okay, that's upside down. Here we go, page 8. So remember, we put in this nice base mat. So this is going to be adhered. Oh shoot, I just remembered something. And I told you this and I forgot myself. I didn't put my magnets in. Let's see, what am I going to do about that? Okay, time to get creative. I'm going to have to take a break. Okay, I'm back. I had mentioned it while I was prepping, and then I fooled around and forgot. I did not put my magnets in before I got my my mats down. So there's a couple things you can do. One, you can try to find an alternative closure, which I didn't really want to do. As you can see on this page, the margins are so tight, I think it's kind of hard to have some ribbon come around the whole thing and not interfere with the hinge. So I kind of steered clear of that. What I did decide to do, I mean, you can, the other thing would be to add another layer of mats, but I'm out of paper, so that's not an option for me. So what I did was I placed my magnets on the very bottom. So this is going to go down this way. And then what I did was I located the joining magnet inside this box. So that's a magnet right there, and then the opposing magnet for the other side is right here. And I'm trying to look while I'm talking because I know it's hard to see. So normally those two magnets would have been out here underneath these mats, but I put them on the inside. And then when you open and close this, I mean, if you look really hard, you can see the magnets, but I don't think anybody's going to put that much work into it. So again, the magnets on the very bottom. And then if you open this, you can see I've placed magnets inside here. And the way I did that, I'll move my bookshelf, I'll show you how I found that. So I placed these magnets first. And then I laid one side down, so I have like a box. And then I let the magnet find its mate here, put the sticky on top, and then close this. And that's how I located those magnets. So again, I've got my bottom magnet here. Oops, trying to stay in frame. Bottom magnet here. I created this little box, found its mate, put some sticky on top, and then closed it. And that's how I worked that out. Okay. Ideally, you don't do what I did and forget. But if you do, there's always a workaround. Might take you a few minutes to come up with it, but there is always a workaround. Okay, this is ready to actually go into the book. I'm going to double check and make sure, yes, that's up. My orientation is correct. Get my tape on and then lay this down. And that is the end of, that's wrong size tape. That is the end of page 8 and the end of this video. And here it is. I'm really liking my little acrylic square with the knob on it. I think that knob made all the difference in the world in terms of me not burying it and making it easy for me to pick it up. All right, so I'm going to burnish this, get some glue on. We're done. Yay. And then once I have my glue on, it just goes centered right here on the bottom. And this is kind of an active piece, so I'm being pretty liberal with the glue. Again, before I lay it down, I want to verify, oh, and I'm glad I did, that I had it in the right order and that my princesses are right side up. And yes, they are. Okay. But I did have it upside down. So it's always good to check and double check, 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 and double check. Okay, and I'm just trying to center it on down here. It looks good. I'm going to open it up. Burnish, and while it's open, I'm going to go on the inside and burnish, and then I'm going to flip it and do the same thing. Burnish, burnish, burnish. And that is the end of page 8. So my next video, I'll be covering the inside.